Hi guys, Lunch with Pastor Mike here. We'll be in Psalm 93. We're reading verses 1 through 5. The Lord is king, he is robed in majesty. Indeed, the Lord is robed in majesty and armed with strength. The Lord is firmly established, it cannot be shaken. Your throne, O Lord, has been established from time immemorial. You yourself are from the everlasting past. The mighty oceans have roared, O Lord. The mighty oceans roar like thunder. The mighty oceans roar as they pound the shore. But mightier than the violent raging of the seas, mightier than the breakers on the shore, the Lord above is mightier than these. Your royal decrees cannot be changed. The nature of your reign, O Lord, is holiness forever. Man, as I read through these words, there's just some stuff that really pops out. But the really thing on this passage that jumps out to me is the repeated words. Did you catch some of those? Like the word king. It's repeated over and over again. Throne, royal, laws, reign. And as we read through this psalm, if we let these words kind of just permeate into our life and maybe marinate a little bit, if you will, the psalm helps us to worship the Lord. Maybe you have struggle like I do at times, and struggle with just understanding what it means to worship God, to worship the King, to really come before Him with that kind of just awe and worship. God says He is wrapped in majesty, that He is armed with strength. I watch a lot of sports, football, basketball, UFC, whatever it is. And it seems that those athletes that are the strongest and the most impressive in their stature are the ones that everyone's like, oh my goodness, you see that guy. And God says, hey, if you ever saw me, if you ever just stop and worship me, you would see that my majesty, my strength, which sets me above everything else. God explains in these passages that nothing happens outside of His sovereign plan, outside of what He planned. In 2 Timothy chapter 6, verse 15, he says that He is the King of all kings, that He is the Lord of all lords. There's nothing bigger, nothing greater than Him. I like kings. I like kings in my life, but the truth is, I like to be the king of my life. I like to be in control. Control is my security blanket, if you will. I like to have control. I like things to be my way. I like things to be lined out. But he says here, he leads us to have pride in him. And when we have pride in ourselves, that leads to brokenness and that leads to pain in my life. And then I don't know what to do. How do I surrender to a king? How do I trust God as my king? Well, he explains it really well here, that God's grace is sufficient. What is it sufficient for? Well, sometimes we think, well, God's grace is sufficient for this time in my life. Well, yeah, that's true. Well, God's grace is sufficient for this struggle. Well, that's true, but that's not what he says. What he says is, God's grace is sufficient for me. And let me say it to you, God's grace is sufficient for you too. He is enough. He's enough for everything you need. And if you just need to stop and find a God, a king in your life to submit your pride to and to worship, he's what you're looking for. This is Lunch with Pastor Mike. Have a great week.